start taking questions, and I'll kind of MC it, and
Okay.
And just kind of keep it flowing, maybe. And I'll try to enable people to talk if we can fast enough. So if you have a question, everybody, please
Just
raise your hand. If you can't figure out how to raise your hand, put your question in the chat or in the Q&A, and then I'll enable you to talk if I can do it fast enough. So we have one question from Bob Serino. So Bob, I'm going to enable you to talk, and then you unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Mr. Nick.
Yeah.
This is like to all the mixed nuts, right? We can all answer a question, right?
Oh yeah, sure. We could do that. That's a good idea.
If you want to.
Well, I think I have a feeling people mostly want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
I'll pass it around, okay?
Hey,
Right.
Nick.
But can you correct us after we don't know what we're talking about?
Yep, no problem. I enjoyed that.
You there, Bob Serino?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Hey, guys. First of all, thank you so much. This was my first Mixed Nuts translation class, and it was just absolutely incredible. You guys blew me away. so thank you very much. My question is not pretty simple, and it doesn't have to relate to a specific text. But Geshe, I know that you are an avid gardener, and this year, as I was preparing some new beds, I was seeing that I was chopping up earthworms, and it's kind of heavy because empathy and compassion. So I was just curious if there was anything in the Dharma that specifically spoke about farming or agriculture or gardening.
Yeah, cool. No, good question. Good question. So I can think of two things. I mean, one is there's a monk's vow that we shouldn't cut green plants. And there's a famous, who can remember should I bet money this morning? It's still legal, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a $20 question. What was the famous example of, sorry. So there was a monk who, he knew the rule against cutting green plants, but he was meditating in a cave. And every time he went back and forth, he scratched his head on a plant.
I know.
Wait, you gotta let me ask the whole question. You can go first. I promise you, Ellie, you're first. So then what is that incident an example of, traditionally?
That he didn't want to cut the bush, but he couldn't get out of the cave.
No, it's bigger than that. It's an example of
the higher example is that he had such good visualization of himself as the deity that he actually had horns on. He knew that he had horns on his head, even though he may not have to other people.
That's a different guy in a cave.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's Gampopa, right?
Geshe.
Oh, you shut up. All right, what?
Is it the one about is that the one with the leather cushion?
You're close, but no cigar. Yay! We didn't get some money.
You see that because he didn't cut it, but one day when he went in and out of the cave, and then the tree branch hurt his body.
His bald head.
Huh?
His
Yeah, hurt his head, and then he got angry and then he cut the trees and he broke the vows.
But he said something in his heart. What did he say in his heart?
What's DP vows?
Yeah, hey, $30 for shopping. It was such a good answer. Yeah, he said, what's the use of these unimportant vows? You know, this is just a minor vow, and this is scratching my head every time I come in and out. So he decided to cut the tree. Now, who can tell me what's the problem with cutting a tree?
Insects.
Yeah.
That's their house for many insects.
Yeah, Stanley's right. Yeah, it's the text specifically says this is their house, you know, and there are some creatures you can see and there's some creatures you cannot see. But whenever you cut any green plant, you're killing someone's house. Now, I want to get another example from the Vinaya, okay, for why is this connected? Okay, Xiaoping, you ready? For
Yeah,
$30.
yes. Sorry, what's the question?
I'm saying, but you have to answer fast before word.
Okay.
Okay. What's one of the things that a monk has to have when he gets ordained that connects to this question?
Water strainer.
Yeah, good. Now, which monk are you supposed? What's the water strainer for?
When they drink water, just in case you will eat the bugs, so to hurt the living beings.
Why are they drinking water from a stream? And how does that connect to the 11 advices that are given to the monk at the end of the ceremony?
Oh,
It's
well, they
very
don't-
quiet. The mixed nuts are very quiet.
Because they're poor and they don't have a lot of stuff.
They're supposed to sleep under trees.
yeah, they
not-
don't own those possessions.
Now, okay, last question for Bob Serino. What is the tradition when a bunch of monks are straining water?
Give it to the one who's the most compassionate.
Yeah, good. They have to choose the monk who's the most compassionate to strain the water. Why?
Not to hurt
So
hurt the worms.
Yeah, some other monk will strain a couple of cups and then they'll say, this is stupid, you know? And they don't really care about the bugs. They're just trying to keep the vow. But if you pick the most compassionate monk, maybe you won't have water that day, I think. Okay. All right. One more question. How did Nagarjuna die?
He cut his own head off with a blade of grass.
Why?
Someone asked him to kill himself, and he saw that. He had been alive so long, and he was almost like immortal. But he looked back in his mind and saw that, hundreds of years earlier, he had killed an insect.
Yeah.
So he had a seed
grass.
How
with a
did
blade
he?
of grass.
Yeah, he was cutting grass with a scythe.
Yeah.
He killed one insect. Now, what's the principle? Do you have to have what I say? Why do monks spend for $20? Why do monks spend the summer retreat in a hut? Supposed to.
Because there's lots of bugs outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of bugs outside that they could kill just walking around. Okay.
Yeah.
Final question. 90% of a karma is motivation. So what if you're just walking across the grass or you're gardening and you kill a creature by accident? Do you collect karma or not?
You do.
Why?
But it's because you still completed the task of killing something.
Okay, this is a good example. It's a karma, but is it a karmic path?
No, it's not a karma marga.
Why?
Because you didn't have the intention to kill something, and because after you killed it, you didn't say, there, I have killed a bug.
So what are the 4 parts of a complete karmic path? Which means a complete juicy karma.
Shi Sampajarwa Tartuk.
Which is?
The place where you plant the seed. So that's like the power of the place where you plant the seed. Like if it's your parents or your teacher, it makes it more powerful.
Good.
Sampa has 3 parts.
Wow.
Dushe, Nyomong, and Kunlong. Yeah, motivation, what you're talking about.
If Nick gets this right, I'm going to give him $30. Give me the 3 parts.
Dushe, Nyomong, and Kunlong. So motivation, your intention to carry this out. Dushe, you're correct. Like understanding of what that object is or what you're doing.
Yeah.
And Nyomong is the emotions present when you're doing the thing.
Which could be positive, even though they're called negative emotion, right?
Yeah, it could be to help somebody or it could be to hurt somebody.
Okay, what's the third? $30 shopping.
Yes.
The dad, Amelie's dad. What's
So-
the
Jorwa, is doing it. So actually doing it. So in the DCI language, we say that's the part where you take them to Starbucks.
And
Like,
number four?
and number 4 is coffee meditation, or in this case, it's tartuk, which means you complete, like after you finish the deed, you realize that you finished the deed, and then you have subsequent feelings about it. Like you're either happy about having done it or regretful about it or whatever. Although in this case, it's usually that you're like satisfied that you've done something, whether it was a positive or negative action.
Yeah, so if I'm digging in the garden and I cut worms in half, then is it a negative seed?
Yes.
Sure.
If I drive my neighbor to the hospital because they have COVID virus and I kill some bugs on the windshield, did I do a good deed or a bad deed?
Both.
A little bit of both. I mean,
Mostly good deeds.
mostly good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to think, it depends on your motivation while you're gardening, right? But if you're gardening, like my garden, it's home to millions of creatures. Like this morning, there were hundreds of bees out there, you know, and if I didn't make a garden, they wouldn't be there. So in general, you know, now we go to, it's like a salad, like a good salad. The dressing is, what did your lama do? What did your lama say? You know, so sometimes in these questions, you have to go to what your own teacher told you. And my teacher told me, if the general intention is to make a beautiful garden, please your neighbors, make people happy, and give lots of insects places to live, right? New houses to live. Then if you kill some animals, shorla, what's shorla? Sharla.
By the way,
Incidentally.
Yeah, incidentally, coincidentally, and incidentally, then it's not, he said he can't compare the karma. It's worth it, okay? You do make a small bad seed, but the motivation and the larger karma, you almost can't do anything without hurting somebody, right?
That's the thing about samsara.
Yeah, like we're printing these wonderful books that the mixed nuts are putting out. And Jigme's company is printing these books, and you can get them on diamondcutterpress.com, right, Jigme?
That one will be available in October.
But don't tell them that when you're selling a book. Just say it's available for pre-order.
Pre-order, it's available. I just don't want people complaining to me that they didn't get their book.
Well, they're gonna, yeah. Anyway, if you guys want this amazing commentary to the Heart Sutra, go to the Diamond Cutter Press. But you know, to print this book, you have to drill for oil, right? The ink is made from oil, right? So many creatures get hurt to print the book. So you have to keep in mind the larger motivation. Okay, that's a long answer for Bob Serino. This is fun.
Thank you.
Let's
Geshe.
get it done.
Thank you, Mixed Nuts.
You're welcome. Thank you for all the help. You're really helping us a lot with our different projects, and we're very grateful to you for the Yoga Studies Institute help you're giving us. Thank you.
The honor is mine. Thank you all.
Venerable Jigme, do you have a question?
I just want to do a follow-up. Like, what about when you're spraying your plants for bugs that are biting your plants?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question. Okay, then you go. Do you have an idea, Nick?
Well, I think that along the lines of what you were saying, there are less harmful ways to try to do that. Like you can try using more organic sprays, like you can use oils from chili peppers and stuff, soak them in vinegar.
Yeah.
Bob probably knows about this stuff. And then you spray the plants with that, and that's, it just deters the pests without killing anybody.
Yeah, I think that's the wisest thing to do. Yeah. That's the wisest thing to do. Someone asked me, I asked a very high Lama. We had, in the monastery, we had bed bugs, and they were hurting the kids. The kids were getting hurt. They had big open holes on their arms and legs. And and then I asked my Lama Rinpoche, every time I drive to the grocery store to buy you groceries, I kill so many animals, So he did this thing. He would go out and do a mantra. There's a custom to do a mantra on the car So I'll give it to you, okay? Om Kirtaragana Hum Shri Soha, okay? Om Kirtaragana Hum Shri Soha. Don't ask me what it means. I don't know. Om Kirtaragana Hum Shri Soha. And he would do a mantra on the front of the car. And then he'd say, okay, go get the groceries. It's okay. So maybe we could, maybe we could do this prayer before we do things like that. Yeah, I think so. And again, it depends on your motivation. I think, what's your motivation? Okay.
Okay, we have another question from Isabel Zhao. Isabel, you can talk. I unmuted or I allowed you to talk. If you make sure you're unmuted, you'll be able to talk. Is that working for you? Or not? Well, I'll read her question.
Looks like she wants to write in.
Yeah.
Look like what?
Okay. Now
She wants to read it.
In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks Arjuna to fight and kill his relatives. What kind of karma is he planting there?
There's a traditional version of the ending of that battle. Okay, so you ask some people, how did that battle end? And they will say Krishna, right? Who's supposed to be actually the divine being, right? He's supposed to be like God. He advises Arjuna to kill his relatives. So some of Arjuna's relatives, and even more importantly, some of his gurus are in the opposite army. And so he asks Krishna, what should I do? And the whole Bhagavad Gita, that section is about Krishna's advice. And there's one traditional ending where Arjuna refuses to kill. And then suddenly everybody disappears. The whole thing, just the two lines of armies facing each other just disappears. And he like wakes up from a dream, So I kind of like this ending. Okay. I like this ending. So, but let's, if you read a book called The Garden, right? And in there, another country is attacking your country. So if you decide to kill the soldiers of the other country, do you protect your country?
No.
No, they'll just come more. You see, they will come more. Okay, the karma of killing the other country's army people is that more will come, more countries will attack you. So really, this is a hard answer, okay? It's a difficult answer, but it's better to die than to kill. Okay, it's better to die than to kill. If someone's threatening you or threatening your family or something, it's not gonna solve the problem to kill them. If you try to kill them, more people will come to kill you. If you succeed in killing them, and they stop hurting your family, that's because you didn't kill in the past. Okay, so it's not cause and effect to kill a person from another army to save your family. It doesn't work. It's the opposite, but it's extremely difficult to do. You have to study the husband in the kitchen for many years, I think, but it's better to die than to kill someone else. Yeah. Okay. That's a different. Yeah.
Can you also say something about the protesting going on right now? It's getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask.
If you go that way, I mean, on a conventional level, I think people were very frustrated by the lockdown. And, most of the people on this call right now, we have other resources, we're not going to starve to death. Nick can call John Brady can call, Ellie can call Geshe Michael, we all share what we have, and you know, we're not going to die from hunger or something like that. But there are many millions of people who have no backup. You know, I heard a lot of people in Africa like sold their animals, and you know, sold their farming equipment, and kept their kids home from school, and then now they have nothing. Now they have no backup. So you know, middle class people, upper class people, they have backup. They have families, they have friends, they have parents, they have uncles. Somebody has some money. But there's many people in the world who have used up their backup. The people who started poor, they don't have backup, you know, so they're getting very frustrated, very angry. And I don't think it has so much to do with racism, in my opinion, as it has to do with frustration and anger and poverty. And people have run out of options. They have nobody to borrow money from. They have no money of their own. They have no bank account, and they're angry. They're just angry. So that's the conventional answer. You know, that's a conventional answer. What do we, on a deeper level, on a seed level, where is it coming from? I think is discrimination, right? Stanley's text. I'm going to ask Stanley. What is that? Korwe Gyuchir, Rim Gyuchir, Pumbo Namle Tso and Dang, Dushe Lokshi Pumbo Shak. Okay, Dush Korwe Gyuchir, Rim Gyuchir, Semchung Namle Tso Dang, Dushe Lokshi Pumbo Shak. You haven't got there yet.
Oh, I was looking at my text.
But I'll read it to you. I'll read it. Okay. Semchung Namle, of all the mental functions, Sorwa Dang Dushe, feeling and discrimination. Korwe Gyuchir, one is the cause of they are the cause of samsara. Rim Gyuchir, what do you call it? Progressively, starting with Sorwa and then going on to Dushe. They are the cause of all samsara. Dechir Loshi Pumboshak. That's why Buddha made them separate heaps. He should have put all the mental functions in Duce, right? Number 4. So what's the answer? You see, why are they the cause of samsara?
So you call this 2 mental function, feeling and discrimination, as like the 2 major troublemakers?
Yeah.
Because number 1, when you have some feeling like good or bad, for example, when somebody, when you are treated badly, you feel bad. That's a bad feeling. And then with the function of discrimination, you take this thing as bad from itself and you try to stop it or avoid it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, be violent against violence.
Yeah.
And through that, you plant bad seeds, and that causes the samsara.
Yeah, so I think if we see inequality, if we see racism around us, I think it's important for us to think about the 4 flowers. Who wants to go there?
For knowledge?
4 flowers.
Oh.
What are the 4 flowers? What is the 4 flowers? Stanley, you're just sitting there.
Oh, 4 ways that one single karma could open. So we say if you plant 1 seed, there could be 4 results come from that. Number 1 is you get similar experience back. Like if you hurt some other people, you get hurt back. Number 2, it's habituation, meaning that the more you do harm to other people, the more you are used to it. Sometimes you just couldn't stop it because it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And number 3 is...
Hey, do number 4. Do number 4.
Oh, so number 4 is... Oh, here we can say like next life, like anything you plan designs your next life. Number 3 is where we can consider here, it's environmental results. Meaning that if we have discrimination as a habit or seeds in our mind, then we see the people around us doing this, like racism is part of the environment that comes from this seed of discrimination.
Yeah, and I think we make small stories. I mean, I do this all the time. Like, I'm buying this small cafe, right? And there's a guy who works there on Saturday. He's kind of quiet, and he serves the coffee on Saturday, and he's kind of an old man. You know him, Ellie? He walks around, he serves the coffee on Saturdays, and he's 75 or something like that, and he's very quiet. And, in my mind, when I first went to this cafe, I made a story about this guy. You know how you make stories about people?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I thought, oh, he's kind of a stupid guy. Maybe he hit his head when he was a kid, and he can't get a job, and they let him serve the coffee on Saturdays. Then they have pictures all around the cafe of photographs of the universe, right? Like galaxies and stars. And then one day I found out he's the main scientist at the most famous observatory. It used to be the most famous observatory in the United States. It's not far from here. It's about an hour from here. And they discovered Pluto there at Lowell Observatory. And he's the one who built the telescope. And he takes it apart. He fixes it all the time, and he puts it back together. And then on Saturday, he goes to the coffee shop and serves coffee for his wife, because she's the main owner of the restaurant. And so I think we make stories about people in our mind. And I do this all the time. Like, I made this story about this stupid guy who's this old stupid guy who hit his head when he was a kid, and all he can do is serve coffee, And then I found out my story was completely wrong, So I think when we make stories about other people, we plant seeds for discrimination. We plant seeds for racism. And according to the Mixed Nuts books, which is already, I'm thinking of a small library, It's like Xuanzang's books. Our books say, you created this racism. And so I'm going to ask, I don't know, I'm seeing Chunzon right now. I don't know how I did that. But according to that idea, ever since I was a kid, since I was a teenager, we had a Vietnam War protest, we protested against the Vietnam War. And I went to jail. And people said, you can't do anything. One person can't do anything to stop this discrimination. So what if this Stanley's 4 kinds of ripening of karma is true? Can one person help? And I know you're living next to your whole neighborhood. The glass was broken in the shops, right?
Yeah, it's pretty torn up, actually. Yeah.
The last 2 days. So my question to you, can one person help stop this violence and this racism?
Yes.
How?
That's the big question.
Well, take it to the cafe. Take it to the cafe.
Well, if I want to have the peace and not have all this destruction around me, I would have to start by doing something in a peaceful way, for sure. Mm-hmm. And not maybe screaming my what I want changes for, but showing a way that by my example, showing something and doing something in my actions that are a peaceful way of saying what I want and what I need.
So I'll ask the Mixed Nuts in general. Can one person stop this rioting? Can one person do anything, or is it too big?
No, it can't be.
It would be impossible. Big.
Yeah. Wait, Utpala?
Yeah.
Were you answering?
Yeah, it cannot be too big. There's no such thing as too big to be able to be changed by our actions. So,
okay, now I want someone to take this to Vimalakirti.
The Buddha paradise is coming from seeds in your mind. So one person may see one thing and another person will see other things.
It's
like Shariputra couldn't. He sees a messed up world, and then the Buddha was like, "Well, it's because you're blind to the Buddha paradise." So, if you, in your mind, if you have the right seeds,
Tell the whole story. Like Shariputra is seeing a world where people are racist and they're destroying the stores or in.
basically,
Yeah, no, really, because he says to the Buddha, he's whining in that sutra. It's not like the Heart Sutra where he's the hero. He's just whining in the sutra. And then Buddha says, shut up. What does he say? What does he say?
he says, you know, you don't see it because you're blind to a Buddha paradise. But he specifically says, you don't blame the moon and the sun when a blind person can't see them.
Yeah, so the moon and the sun are a peaceful world that has no racism.
So, I mean, that's the story. And then Big Brahma keeps telling him to shut up too. Poor Shariputra only thought about it. He
Yeah,
couldn't even
Brahma
control.
has dreadlocks, by the way.
Yeah. He's a protester. Or
But I had this problem in the Vietnam War, and I remember a big meeting at Princeton University, and we had hundreds of students there, and the majority of people wanted to bomb the university administration building. They were ready to bomb it that night. You know, we call SDS, Students for Democratic Society. So these people wanted to bomb it. And we had this big debate about, you know, would that fix the problem? And I think the Vimalakirti Sutra, which we are translating, right? It gives a good answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you see a messed up world, that's your fault. And I think it's encouraging because one person can change the world. You know, I gave up protesting in my 30s because it just didn't seem to work, you know. But according to Vimalakirti Sutra, which Tang Tang is translating, right? It is possible for one person to change everything, right? Okay.
Is it too heavy to say that that's the only way that anything changes? In fact, everyone individually must be the one person who changes the world.
That's a perfect answer. Yeah, I really like that. I didn't think about it that way. It's really, yeah, that's really beautiful.
So then we would have to watch every little action and every little word and thought. It would be a time to be really a good detective of how you're thinking and acting.
Yeah, and blaming other people for stuff, you know, even the president, you know, blaming other people. Yeah,
right.
It's your if C's are correct, everything you see is your fault.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you know, I tend to get depressed about that, and then I think
a little heavy.
And sometimes you have to think all the good stuff you see is your fault too, and that's why it's important to do. That's why it's important to do that kind of a coffee meditation at the end of the day. Not just what you did good, but what you saw other people do good. And that, you know, like last night I couldn't sleep. I drank. Oh, Ben Kramer. I got this. My neighbor came over. His daughter-in-law's from El Salvador. Okay. And she said, oh, my family makes coffee. Would you like some? And oh my gosh, forget sleeping, you know. But it's really, really good. And I think the cafe can support the people in El Salvador who are in big trouble right now. But I couldn't sleep. And sometimes you can't think of anything good that you did.
Yeah.
What's the backup? What's the traditional backup?
Something that somebody else
Michael did.
That helps a lot of people.
Yeah, think about the good things you saw other people do. Can you take credit for that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, who else created them?
Yeah, you created all the rioters, and you also created all the kind people who are trying to solve things and trying to make people feel happy. And you created all the doctors and nurses who are treating the people so bravely, right? So you can.
I think you said something really important when you said that I think that the coffee shop can help support the people down there by buying their coffee. Like, we can't just sit back and meditate and work on our minds. We need to find ways to act and be in the world to be an example for others of how to be.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. That's
And
very,
no one wants to do the work alone also. Like, it is each of our responsibility.
Mhm.
I think if you take personal responsibility to do the work alone, friends will appear to do the work with you like we have. And that's the most fun way to achieve great things.
yay, mixed nuts. I want to say it's an incredible thing to be a member of the mixed nuts. It's an amazing feeling. Makes me want to cry sometimes, you know, to be one of the mixed nuts. I think I'm the cashew, okay? I think Nick is a pistachio. And but it's an honor to be a mixed nut, I have to say. Yeah. Okay, other question, Nick?
All right. Ella DePass had a quick follow-up to the bug question. Did you get it answered already, Ella? I enabled you to talk. You just have to unmute yourself.
No, it's a problem I've been struggling with. I have termites. I bought a house last year, at the end of last year, and found out there's termites and don't want to kill them. So I was wondering how I can do this right.
I had the same problem, to tell you the truth. I had the same problem. And my teacher had the same problem. And it's a difficult question. I think ultimately speaking, it's the same as okay, so I'll tell a good story. We ended up destroying, Nick knows, we tore out part of our floor, you right? We just tore it out, and it was expensive. We just tore it all out and threw the wood out. But what I remember, my teacher, I think I told this story a lot of times, but I'll tell it again, because when you get old, you just tell your stories over and over. So I was studying Abhidharma with a Geshe from Inner Mongolia, a great Geshe, who on his deathbed gave me Adam's text, Sedura. And that's why we're translating that, because it is the greatest logic book of all time, of its kind. And anyway, we got very close, and he gave me his most precious thing, which was an ancient radio, with the tubes inside. And so he gave that to me,
Oh,
and the Abhidharma Kosha. He gave me some chapters of the Abhidharma Kosha, and because my teacher was traveling. And so anyway, it turned out that there were roaches. I think Chinzom knows. There were roaches in the radio because it was so warm because of the old tubes in the radio. And then they spread all over our house. So I used to live with my teacher. And then he says, tell your people to get out of the house, And he says, you're the king of the roaches, I said, Rinpoche, they don't listen to me, I may be the biggest roach. Listen to me. And he said, I have an idea. So he, every night, like when 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, when we went to bed, he would put a garbage bag in the middle of the kitchen. I think Chinzo might have seen it. And then he would put dog food in the middle of the bag, and little spoon of dog food. And then he would go to bed, and he set his alarm for 2 o'clock. And he would get up at 2 o'clock and come down quietly on his tiptoes. And then he'd turn on the light, and real fast, he would grab the bag and take all the roaches out, because they love dog food. And I said, Rinpoche, this is going to take a long time. And it took maybe 6 months. And every night he just took them out, and finally there was no more roaches. And the interesting thing is they never came back. I think even now, I think it's been about 50 years, almost 50 years. There's never been roaches in that house since then. So that's kind of a miracle. Yeah. Anyway,
So
does
maybe
Amri have a question?
she does, but we can't interpret. She had an answer.
What kind of mixed nuts are you if you can't translate a baby's talk?
So maybe the answer to Ella's question has to do with finding some kind of wood that the termites like better and putting that there for them.
I don't know. I mean, my teacher would have said, if it's a question of, it's the other army question, right? So what's better, you kill them or if you kill them and they go away, is it because you killed them? You know what I mean? So, but to live like that is very difficult. And I think my teacher would have, if necessary, he might have used gas or something, So, but he would have cut the wood out and save as many as you can, something like that. Yeah.
We have a question from Jewel. Jewel, I enabled you to talk. Do you want to ask it yourself?
Yeah, it's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm planning to donate my organs when I die because I think it can help and save people's life. However, when I was listening to your Lamrim, actually you mentioned that the moment when we die is very important and best to be in a quiet environment, nobody touch your body, or even if possible, even after we die, for a few hours, don't touch your body until there are some white or red fluids out from the nose or something like that, if I'm not remember, I can't remember the details. But however, if we donate the organs, basically it will be a situation that maybe our brain is dead, but when our body is dead, but the mind is not dead yet. So I'm not sure, should I donate my body or shouldn't I donate my body to save people? Yeah, so can you explain further for this part?
By the way, Ju is one of the 10 Pure Gold translators who are helping this time with the live translation. So I will say thank you.
Let's give a hand to the Pure Gold translators.
Hey.
All the Pure Gold.
Thank you, Jewel. Thank you, all the Pure Gold translators.
So I asked my teacher this question, and the story is very fun. You know the story. He didn't like to answer my questions, and so I have to trick him. What do you call that kind of trick, you guys?
Skillful.
Right.
Yeah, make him a tea.
Skillful means, right? So anyway, by the way, what was the skillful means in Nick's text?
To teach them other things first, to teach them, slowly build up to emptiness.
Me and mine.
Yeah. Say again?
To teach me and mine.
Yeah. And the heaps, right?
Abhidharma.
Yeah, Abhidharma.
Yeah, family.
So anyway, I was his driver. I did everything. I was his gardener. I built his house. I did all his accounting. I washed his clothes. And by the way, I did that for 20 years or something. And I have to say, it's a good idea. It's a pleasure. It was a great pleasure. And the reason I can teach these books is because I did those things. So anyway, so the only time I can get answers is if I trick him. So we were on a plane going to Europe, and it was like a 12-hour flight. And he sat next to me and he couldn't go anywhere. So I started asking him questions. And I said this question about, should I donate my organs or not? Because maybe they will start to cut my organs before my mind is really gone, So he said, he said the intention to donate your organs is more powerful. It's more important. So maybe it will happen that maybe it will be a little bit too early. You can tell your relatives, your wife, your husband, your kids, when I die, please wait. Please have them wait at least like a half hour or something. And maybe that will ruin some organs, I guess. But after they declare your brain dead, ask them to wait maybe half an hour, and then they can cut. That's okay. I've also donated my organs, so the power of that decision is more important. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Yeah. Next one.
Well, just a really quick one. Somebody asked, do you happen to recommend any particular version of the Bhagavad Gita?
YSI has a version. I translated a version. So I didn't translate the whole text, but I translated maybe half of it. I took the most important parts and I translated them. So if you contact YSI, but to tell you the truth, it's like similar to translating the Christian Bible. The language is so simple. Like Jesus spoke in such simple language that it's hard to mistranslate it. Like I studied Greek. I went to Oxford, extension school and studied Greek for a summer so I could read the Bible. And then I found out I wasted my time. It's not it's not difficult. There's nothing difficult there. It's not like the mixed nuts books, okay? So the Bhagavad Gita is just, it's kind of a story, and it's not, I don't think you can make a really bad translation, okay? It's difficult to make a bad translation. By the way, I'll advertise that later, Nick, okay? Maybe sorry. Is it legal if I, where is that? Oh, which brings me to an idea. If you guys, can I show it, Nick?
Sure.
Okay, how do I do that? Let me see here.
Share your screen, Geshe?
Yeah.
Yeah, just share.
It reminds me of something. It reminds me of something. Can you see it?
It's coming. There we go.
Okay, I'm gonna do a small advertisement. This is Dr. Mitsukarim Norbyakov, and he's a famous Russian medical doctor. He has medical facilities all over the world, actually, to treat people using modern ideas that are similar to, YSI's ideas about exercise and eating well and things like that. He's an academician of the Russian Academy of Sciences. He's a very well-known doctor, and he's sold about 5 million books about being good to people. And so we're gonna do this free webinar on Sunday, June 7th, okay, no charge. And it will start at 9 o'clock mixed nuts nut time. We changed the Mountain Standard Time to mixed nuts time. And so you're very welcome to come. It's called the 10 Biggest Mistakes You Can Make After the Crisis. And you're very welcome to come. It won't be shown in mainland China, but you could probably, maybe later you could see a recording of it. And we ask people not to put it up on WeChat because it's a little, it's like that. So, but I think he's gonna also talk about translating. And one of the most famous translations in America, in the United States, probably the most famous translation, is called Rumi, which is poetry from about almost 1,000 years ago. And he's very active in translating that poetry and teaching that poetry. So we're gonna talk about the Rumi's poetry. So it might be enjoyable for you guys. In addition to the 10 biggest mistakes. Okay, Nick, take it back somehow. Or I have to give it up.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Where are we?
Nick, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. We have a question from Vivian. So Vivian, if you can speak, you just have to unmute yourself. I've given you the power to speak.
Hi, thank you, Nick. My question is from a student. So can
you mute one of your? Oh, I'll read it.
Okay.
Because you're having echo issues.
No, she's better.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead, Vivian.
Okay. 翠萍，你帮我读那个问题吧。Thank you.
Oh, she asked somebody to read it.
Okay, so
看
when
不到那个屏幕吗？
Okay.
翠萍在同传应该是
王老师，Nick 可以来读，没关系。
When telling the story of the pen, there is a detail that is, my seeds opened and I see a pen. In this detail, Geshe said that the seeds of the pen in our consciousness opened, and it is an image made of light that quickly covered the object, which became this pen. It is like a skillful means of explanation for people to understand. Besides, seeing a pen is different from having a pen, right? How should we talk about this seed when we tell the story of the pen? So
Yeah, okay. I'll give it a question to you guys, okay? So if the pen that I see is just a stick, and then my mind opens, a karma opens in my mind, a seed opens in my mind, and a picture comes out very fast, and it covers the stick, and then I see a pen, okay? Then why can I write with that thing? How can it work that to write with that thing? Who can answer? I need a Nagarjuna scholar.
that's the only way you could ever write with anything.
Guy, great. Oh God, that's a beautiful answer. Keep going.
Well, the paper is also coming from your mind, and your perception of the paper and the pen touching the paper is also coming from seeds in your mind. And the idea of the ink rolling onto the paper is also coming from a seed in your mind. So all those things are just one seed opening after another, giving the appearance of a stick-like object, leaving a trail of ink on a piece of paper. But it's really just one seed opening after another, projecting it.
So be careful now, Nick. Be careful. I'm going to ask you a question, but be careful how you answer. So is the pen making the writing on the paper?
Yeah. As much as anything could. But in a bigger sense, no, it's not. I mean, Nagarjuna would say it's not. Or
What do you other mixed nuts think? Is the pen making the writing on the paper?
No.
You could say that you're making the pen make the writing on the paper, but the point is that it's coming from you.
So can Nagarjuna say that nothing starts and nothing stops?
He can say that because when he says that, he's thinking about the way we think things start and stop, which is having nothing to do with the way we've treated other people in the past.
Yeah, cool. That's a very difficult thing, right? So even though things don't exist, they can still do what?
Function.
Yeah, they can still perform a function. How does the lower three schools differ from the fourth school about this question?
They define dependent origination as something that does perform a function.
Yeah, they say the function, what something does lives in the thing. What something does lives in the thing. What's an example from DCI?
Aspirin.
Explain.
When you say in, when talking about something, you basically mean that the power that that thing seems to have is somehow inherent to the object and not coming from your seeds.
Yeah, it seems like the fact that things work means that something is inside that thing, right? So that's the, what do you call it inside of aspirin? What's the thing they put on the bottle?
Some kind of inhibitor.
OX2 inhibitor.
Yeah, but what do they call it? That's the
active ingredient.
Yeah, active ingredient. That's like if Nagarjuna saw active ingredient written on a aspirin bottle, I think he would rip it off immediately. You know, he would say, "Oh, F this thing." You know, there's no active ingredient in an aspirin. Okay, right? There's nothing inside the aspirin that makes it work. Okay, nothing. The only way an aspirin will work is what?
If you help with another sick person in the past.
Yeah, help, especially people with headaches, you know, help other people with headaches. Yeah. Then the big question is, can you stop taking aspirin?
Say that again, Ken.
If the aspirin only works because you helped other people with headaches in the past, then do you have to stop taking aspirin in the future?
That would be kind of silly because you've armed the aspirin to work to cure your headache.
Yeah, if you're helping other people, it's just starting, and you still have to take the aspirin, right?
Not,
I like the stapler idea. It's like,
can you explain it? Can you explain it?
You have a stapler, and it's not going to staple the paper together unless you load the stapler with staples. But likewise, for most of us, you're not going to be able to staple that paper together unless you put the staples in the stapler and use the stapler. Now, it's possible that some very special people could get such great staples and develop such strong thumbs that they could staple the paper together themselves without the stapler, but that's pretty rare. That would be like miraculous.
Yeah, so can we say that if you helped a good number of people with their headaches in the past, could you just eat chocolate chip cookies when you get a headache and the headache will go away?
Lord knows I try.
Or you'd never get headaches anymore in the first place.
Well, that's what I'm not going there yet, Word. That's the next question.
Ow.
I don't ever try to get money by answering the question I didn't ask yet. Okay, what if you collect better karma to stop other people's headaches? Okay, Word.
Oh, the great question. Then you wouldn't have the problem in the first place that you needed the aspirin to cure.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you wouldn't have. Now, how does that relate to writing letters? And who can explain that to me?
Maybe, I mean, you planted a seed to have a pen as an instrument of communication, and so it functions.
I'm talking about postman. I'm talking about postman.
Oh, I gotcha.
Who wants to tell the story?
I keep talking.
Even though it's the delivery system.
Yeah, wait, you have to start the story like this. Stanley knows, we just did it in the Biggest Mistakes video book, right?
Yeah.
So can you explain? I write a letter. I sit here in my house, my little house, and I write a letter to Geshe Michael and say, "You're so stupid." And then what?
And then you go to the post office, and then you mail that letter to the same address of your own house. And then 2 weeks later or 3 months later, depending, the letter come back. And then, somebody knock on your door, then you open it, it's a postman, and he deliver that letter to you. And then you're very excited, you open that letter, and then you see this line saying that Geshe Michael is stupid. And then at that moment, should you be mad at the postman because he delivers the letter? And then we say, no, he is just an instrument. You write the letter yourself, and you have somebody yell at you. So that means, usually we say it in the kitchen. So your husband is only the postman, and your own seed, planted by yelling at your kids a week ago, write that letter, and then you force your husband to yell at you. He is just the postman.
Yeah, and same with the aspirin, right? Same with the aspirin.
Right.
It's just the postman. So don't blame the aspirin company if it doesn't work. Okay. All right, Nick, you got anything
Ken,
else?
it's been an hour. Do you want to take a break, or do you just want to keep going? There's lots of questions.
Personally, I don't need a break. So if you guys don't mind.
It's great.
I got El Salvador on my side.
I just wondering if you need a restroom break at any point, just let us know.
I'm okay. Okay.
Okay, cool. We'll just keep going. Rick, do you want to ask your question? Rick Tan has a question from Singapore.
Hi
there?
everyone.
Hey,
Thank you, Geshe.
Kelly Tan's brother?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
You're so lucky to have such a great sister.
Yeah. Okay, question today is what's the karma collected of one who accidentally teach emptiness to a person who is not mentally ready? and how to do a 4-power on this. So because based on myself, I had a friend, close friend, who I explained the pen story, and he wasn't ready that time. But a few years later, my seeds changed, and he's able to accept this right now. So, but I'd just like to know what's the karma collected at that point of time, because this is in one of the Bodhisattva vow.
Hey, whose star is that? Is that Nick's text?
Yeah, that was my text.
You want to give a commentary?
Yeah, but I don't know the answer to the question, but I'll explain what's going on.
Well, basically, there's no intention. They thought the person was ready, but then the person wasn't ready. So what happens then?
If you thought the person was ready and then the person wasn't ready, you created a bad seed from teaching them emptiness and scaring them, but you didn't create a path of karma. So it's not going to be a strong seed. You probably got some good karma from attempting to share the ideas that can help somebody with them. And then there's a little bit of a bad karma for not being careful.
Did you break your bodhisattva vow?
No, you didn't break. In your bodhisattva vow, to break a bodhisattva vow, you'd have to have the intention to force that person to stray from the higher path.
And they also would have had to have been on the Mahayana path, had a strong feeling of bodhicitta, motivation of bodhicitta, and then given it up because of your teaching.
There's this idea of chains, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the bodhisattva vows. I haven't looked at it recently, and frankly I don't remember what they are. But is it fresh in anybody's mind?
Ben's got 'em.
You should be happy to do it again.
Yeah.
Should not have any regret on what you have done.
Yeah, you're glad you did it.
Mm-hmm.
You do it again. You don't think it's wrong.
Yeah, you don't think it's wrong.
yeah.
And you have to identify the subject, right?
Frankly, I don't remember, but I know
think you have
there's
to be, Christina, you're honest. I think it's like you have to be super clear about what you're doing. It's like you're.
Yeah.
We'd have to look it up.
And
Yeah,
not
you know
make a
what you are
mistake with who you're doing it to.
Not under the influence.
No. Those aren't the 4 chains, though. I mean, those are all.
I looked it up. I have it right here.
Yay, word.
From the ACI courses. This is from the review course, but reviewing, the Bodhisattva vows. A desire to commit still more of the particular wrong deed.
So Rick doesn't have that.
A lack of any shame or consideration.
He doesn't have that.
A sense of enjoyment and satisfaction.
He doesn't have that.
A failing to consider one's deed as something wrong.
He doesn't have that. So he didn't break a bodhisattva vow, definitely. Maybe he didn't even do a bad deed, I think. I don't know. Okay. That's cool. Thank you, word.
Geshe, can I have a follow-up question to that?
Yeah, if it's not too hard, and especially if you pay me for the answer. I don't know. I'm starting to doubt the law of karma,
Next life, Geshe, next life.
Okay, next life. Yeah.
No, I have a question. It's very similar to Rick's question.
Okay.
I think about it sometimes because, especially when I started first studying these teachings, I was extremely excited, and I had many fast changes in my life for the good, and I wanted to share for people because I was having so much success.
Yeah.
And so I would share, and then some people would get very annoyed when I basically told them, the world is coming from you. You can, and so I stopped sharing so much. But this, I'm more conservative with my sharing. But this is my question for you, Geshe. You teach the pen and the 2 husbands all over the world.
Yeah.
And you don't know every single person in the Taiwan crowd of 3,000 people, or whatever those great numbers are you do. So how do you, again, I guess it's intentional, but how do you rectify for yourself the possibility that, you know, you could really upset someone or really hurt somebody with that teaching if they're not ready when you're teaching to like big audiences where you don't know everyone for yourself?
That's a good question. I guess my answer is that I came up with the pen example because I strongly believe that if you're just a normal person, you cannot deny any step of that teaching. You can't say at some step, I disagree. You see, if you're a normal person in the world, I don't think there's anything about the way we teach emptiness with the pen that someone can say that's wrong. I don't think there's any step in that presentation where somebody can say that's wrong. And then I try carefully not to, I don't go easily to saying everything's like that. You know what I mean? I try to prove it carefully with one object, like a pen. So no one's going to get threatened that the pen came from them. You know, no one's going to freak out that the pen came from them, you know. And then to tell you the truth, I don't go to the next step unless the audience is more experienced. And the next step is to say, and it's very, very, I don't know how to say it in a way that everyone hears it, but if the pen is coming from you, then any normal person would have to conclude after a while that everything's coming from you. You know, if one thing is coming from you, then everything's coming from you, you know? So I try to, my line of where I think I would break the vow and is to teach it very carefully, very slowly, teach it with a small object. No one's going to get threatened that their pen came from giving pens away, you know? And that's how I do it. I try to stick to the pen. I also avoid the word emptiness in a lot of situations. I don't use the word emptiness. And I think the word emptiness is very kind of dangerous sometimes, you know. And if you think about it, when I teach the pen, I'm really teaching what?
Dependent origination.
Yeah, I'm teaching dependent origination, yeah. So that's all. I haven't had an experience. To be honest, I can't think of a single time when anyone came up to me and said, you know, now I'm hitting people because they come from me. I can do what I want. You know, I didn't have, now I don't have to love people. You know, I try to teach the pen in such a way that by the time the audience leaves the room, they want to do good deeds, you know? So that's the main thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. But to freak people out and say everything's empty, you know, nothing exists, that would be dangerous, I think. And that I've seen that hurt people. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, Word, for the extended question.
Thank you for the question, Rick. Say hi to your sister.
Yes, she's a good chef at home now because only 2 of us at home.
You're lucky. Tell her she can come to my house.
Good to hear your voice, Rick. Anton has a question.
No, don't let Anton ask a question. They're too difficult.
It's too late. I already publicly announced it.
Thank you, Nick. So this is actually it's a personal question which I'm struggling almost every day in my meditation, and it's yesterday on last Nick's lesson I actually realized that it's somehow connected, so I felt appropriate to ask that. So when I'm in the alliance dance meditation and when I'm working on focusing on the quality of my teacher, and then canceling the normal way of seeing things like self-existent, and then at the same time, the moment I'm canceling it, I have this idea that you've taught us many times, like this picture coming out of the seed and going towards that and like creating that. But then when I go deeper into that, and that process of seed coming, it has a start. It feels like it has a start, and then it has a movement, and there is a process when it connects to that. It's very fast, but there is this process, and that feels too solid when you like. It's basically now new gaksha, which is more subtle, and then there's another thing when I'm going how this seed came to that place. Like there is this strong feeling of movement from past to the future, and it's very it's too solid. Like I have a feeling like that there is this movement. So and the deeper I go into that, it's just very difficult to kind of go deeper into that. So what would be your suggestion how to move around this, how to think about it in a better way, so to go deeper into this emptiness of this process? And I feel somehow it's connected with what we learned yesterday with the on the next class, but I have a feeling to it, but maybe you could give some advice here.
Cool. So I'm gonna do it in two. I have two ideas. I think number one is let's ask these guys. Let's ask these mixed nuts. Then I see things in my life because seeds are opening and they are creating those things, right? So when I look at my teacher, I was doing that meditation this morning too. And I was thinking about my teacher, and I'm supposed to think that the reason I see my teacher, it was helping old people. My teacher likes to help old people. So I was thinking, then I made up a story. I was in the Middle Ages. I was actually in the Middle East. I was a lady. I was helping kids, you know, and because of that, I see my teacher helping old people. And then the way I used to think about my teacher, you know, oh, she was born in a certain place and people taught her to be nice to old people, and that's why she's nice to old people. Then that teacher disappears, right? And then I want to take your question this way. At that moment, I'm focusing on the emptiness of my teacher. That the teacher I thought learned to take care of old people because her mother taught her, blah, 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 is not there. Now, I think part of your question is, now I'm watching the gaksha, right? And that's the absence of a certain teacher who was never there. And isn't that gaksha also coming from my seeds? Anybody want to try? And then isn't it a changing thing if it's coming from seeds?
Where else would it come from?
Oh, you're going to go that way. Yeah, but if it's coming, if I say, okay, you're right, it couldn't come from any place else. But then isn't it a duche? Isn't it dune chepeche, gyu dan ken, dune chepeche? What's that mean?
Something that comes from causes and conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, I have this same question about when you say that emptiness is like a fountain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's very because then it makes it sound like emptiness or this absence is actually arising from a cause, isn't? Because seeds are a cause, right?
Yeah, and then Anton has I'm thinking the impression of movement through time, like the gaksha stays there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you know, in a good lion stance, not in my lion stance. But, you know, if it continues, isn't it replicating itself, you know? And that was part of Nick's text for sure. That was part of your text for sure. It's a difficult question. It's a really difficult question. So how to answer it? Anybody want to try it?
The gacha is not coming from seeds because it doesn't even exist.
Oh, wow. Gakpe ngula marek parte ngumedjimayin. Oh, yeah. What's that mean?
There's no marikpa in the world. There's no ignorance in the world, right? If there's no gacha.
No, but Hasa's right. The Gakcha is a meba, right?
One is, one isn't.
Now we're going to, yeah. Now we're going to Adam's text, right?
Yeah. There's a Rikpe Gakcha, Lamki Gakcha.
Okay. I have a game I really wanted to play. Maybe it will help. Okay. I have a game I really wanted to play. Okay. I have a list of all the mixed nuts. Okay. Because I'm supposed to send out the text every morning to Utpala. You ready? This is a game I wanted to play. Okay. Okay. Anton, I hope you don't mind. It's about your question. I have a list of the mixed nuts. Okay. And I want to play a game. Is there a connection between every one of the texts on this question? Okay. Can you guys find me something in your text about Gakcha and Gakcha changing? Okay. So I'm just gonna, I have this list because I was supposed to send out the text, you know. So the first one is Stanley. Okay. Is there anything? Is there anything in Stanley's book that would help us with Anton's question?
Can you guys hear me right now?
What? Yeah, yeah. There's some lady next to you. She's like crazy. I don't know.
She's trying to give me more challenge. I was thinking about in the last class of Abhidharma, we were talking about there was, you can kind of say there's the first 6 consciousness becomes the object of the 7th.
Yeah, cool.
Or the first 5. So that gotcha in Anton's question, it's literally it's a perception of the thing. It's a perception of trying to imagine the things that doesn't exist, and that becomes the object of the mind.
Yeah.
Of the next moment.
Cool. Okay. Now I'm just moving on. Okay, because I'd like to show that all of your texts are connected. That's for me extremely sexy to think about. Seiji's text. Dun 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 dun.
So I was thinking of a part of my text. I mean, it's slightly different. So that in this case, Anton would be going into a very like subtle examination, right? And I remember in my text where it mentioned how someone in the path of habituation created like little seeds for blocking. Like I remember it saying about the subtle lack of grace in what was it in areas
how our hearts jump,
right? Like they would do movements and there were subtle ways that they would still be creating like blockages. So I'm thinking maybe it's related to that.
Yeah. Okay. Subtle shadows of not understanding the Gakcha. Thinking that if I can maintain it in my mind over time, it must be a changing thing, right? Like that. How's that? Okay, here's a difficult one. Allison, how does your text relate to Anton's question?
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I think in the Vinaya test, the meaning of Gaccha is not the meaning usually in other tests. In other tests means the thing that emptiness empty of. But in Vinaya it is not. But all of a sudden I can't remember.
In Vinaya, I think it would be it would be any kind of bad behavior would be a lamki gakcha, right? Not a rigpe
Oh,
gakcha.
yes, yes. So it's a totally different meaning in Vinaya.
But are they connected? Is the lamki gakcha connected to seeing the rigpe gakcha?
Yes.
I think it was in your 11 advices recently, right?
Mm.
Like you keep studying, you study, right? They told him study.
Yeah.
Never stop studying. Then you will get wisdom, okay? And you will see that things are not themselves, right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think the 11 advices tell people study, right? And then they will get wisdom, but they didn't talk about emptiness directly, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody want to say how Vimalakirti? That's pretty obvious. How does it relate? But how does it relate to Anton's question exactly? Vimalakirti. Can the gakcha be sustained? Can it go on over time? What's the gakcha in Vimalakirti's text?
The messed up world.
Yeah, no. You're close, but you're not saying it exactly.
That's
The
about world which
lack of a Buddha
Buddha's
paradise.
foot.
Other than your own practice.
Or some world that exists from its own side that
Yeah.
is one particular way. Some
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Okay, cool. Is there a gakcha there is a gakcha in Vimalakirti, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
it's,
Yes.
duh.
It's a Buddha paradise that comes from its own side, or a messed up world that comes from its own side, right?
Yep.
Okay, now, Sugang, how does that help? How does Sugang's text help? Uh-oh. Are you
Yeah.
in the desire realm? Are you gonna jump to the form realm?
I was just thinking that the focusing on all the links
Yeah.
without the correct understanding,
Yeah.
and focusing on all the links to stop the will without the correct understanding of the first link is basically a gotcha.
Yeah. I have a question for you. So you've been spending days and days and days of your text about the form realm.
Yeah.
But how can we describe that as a big mistake in Anton's question?
Yeah, the form realm is I would say the focus on form realm as a big mistake. The main reason is because
You were
it
doing
is,
the lion's dance. You were doing the lion's dance, and what happened? How could Anton have the problem that your text has been talking about for many days? How could his lion's dance? How could his lion's dance have this problem?
I would say the misunderstanding that I think basically form and formless realm are very deceptive.
Yeah.
And people have been focusing too much on that, assuming that those are basically the emptiness, where in fact those are actually the gotcha. Those are not really, those do not really exist.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you misunderstood the lion's dance meditation, you might stop before you got to the top, right?
Yes, precisely.
And you might be born into the form realm as a result, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we can also bring in the idea of the unshifting karma.
Yeah.
Unshifting karma and the understanding of that is that it is a neutral karma. So people just think that as long as I don't do the any positive or negative karma, they will be able to understand the emptiness. But in fact, there is also this factor of the unshifting karma that they shouldn't, or there is this idea that unshifting karma that they have to bypass in order to go all the way to level 9. So I think these three are basically a pretty dangerous concept if people don't understand.
Okay, so I hear two dangerous things. Okay, number one, I'm trying to relate your text to Anton's question. So on a beginning level, if you get stuck in the lion's dance meditation before you reach the Lama, and you just enjoy how it feels, you know, oh, look, my focus is very good today. It's better than El Salvador. I'm feeling really good. I think I'll just stop here. That's one problem, right? Now I have a question for Sugang. Okay, what kind of disappointment is very dangerous at that time?
Oh yeah, they assume that those are nirvana, and when they go to the bardo and they know that they will be reborn, they will be disappointed and, oh shucks, man, it's not there.
Yeah,
I'm wasting my time. Yeah.
And then
they will just fall down to the hell, to the desire.
Yeah, to hell realms. Okay, so your text is pretty connected to this question. Okay,
it's pretty obvious, I would say. Yeah.
How about word? How's your text related to Anton's question? I want to show all the texts are interconnected.
No relation.
Shut up. Okay, for $2. Now he'll see a connection.
Make it 20. We talk.
Okay, 20 pesos. 20 pesos.
Okay, perfecto. No, let me see. I mean, when you talk about mind-only school, I think it's important to talk about the fact that there's different gakjas in the first place. I mean, essentially, I don't think there isn't a change. There can never be a change in gaksha. You can have a changing perception of a gaksha, like your mind is thinking of something that's unchanging, right? Or something that doesn't exist, like, you know, a rabbit's antlers or something. But I don't know. I think this is the closest thing that's like really relevant in the mind-only school is like our discussion like a few terms back about how you cut negativity out of the mind.
Okay, how does it relate to Anton's question?
I think it relates to Anton's question because of how the mind-only school sees the problem in our minds. You know, like their gaksha, you know, is like outer objects. You know, there's kind of a couple in mind-only school, but is like outer objects. So kind of realizing the mistake that your mind is making in the mind-only school is more about not having the perception that, you know, you've been looking at things the wrong way the whole time, like not seeing that things are just in the kunshi coming from seeds.
So when you look at your lama in the meditation, what would be the gaksha in your book?
The gaksha would be thinking that the lama that you ever see, whether it's even an image in your mind or your lama when he, she, you know, is outside of your mind, nothing more than, you know, objects and the perception of those objects that's coming from seeds from the things that you planted in the past, which is residing in the kunshi.
Okay, cool. Let's go to Utpala's text. Does your text have any help for Anton?
So I need to, I'm sorry to say, but I need to understand exactly what the question is.
I'm gonna say it this way. And I don't know if it's exactly what Anton wanted, but that's okay. When I finally arrive at the gaksha, how do I sustain the perception of the gaksha over the next 5-10 minutes? It feels like the gaksha becomes a positive object that's being created by my seeds. So how can it be an absence of something? And isn't it changing if I can sustain a gaksha in my mind? Doesn't it change subtly as my mind is flesh and blood, prana, blood, you know, is pumping to my brain. it gets faster, it gets slower, the object's clearer, the object's less clearer, the object's changing. So how can emptiness change over time? It feels more solid. It doesn't feel like a simple absence of something.
Okay, so I would guess that at the point it begins to feel like it's a solid thing, that it's time to go back to analysis because it's a misunderstanding. So we have to go back and forth between developing single-pointed concentration and honing our understanding of what the absence is.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time? I got distracted.
Oh, it's okay. You just have to go back and forth between Shine and.
Oh, so you have to come back to your reasons and then that thing will get clean again. It won't change, right?
We have to go back and forth.
Okay.
It will be an impediment to our meditation if when something is appearing to us in the wrong way that we stick with that. We have to go back and change it, whether it's about our ability to keep single pointed on an object or the highest wisdom about what it is that the self, or in this case, the Lama, is empty of.
How does this relate to the part in your text which was talking about whether the perception of emptiness is a Chegom or a Jogom? Is it a problem solving meditation, or is it a single pointed meditation? Your text asks that question. What was the answer?
I'm sorry, what was?
When you see emptiness directly, like let's say Anton went into direct perception of emptiness because he did a good lion's dance, would that be Jogom or would that be Chegom? Would that be single pointed meditation or would that be a problem solving meditation?
Single pointed.
What did your text say?
Single pointed.
Nah.
It's definitely, you're not analyzing at that point. You are resting on the result of analysis.
Wait, but what did your text, your text sort of gave an advice on this question?
Is it about like not analyzing too much and then you get agitated, but analyze enough and then you drop into the single pointed?
Yeah, I think it was talking about how experienced are you in your shamatha and your vipassana, right? If you're not very experienced, you might have to drop back into Chegom. If your shamatha is not very good, your vipassana is not too strong, you might have to alternate. I think that's what your text said.
Oh, that's what, I'm sorry, that's what I thought I was saying.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, sorry.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. So I have another text, Ben's text. How does that relate to all this stuff?
I mean, I'd like to think that my text is about the way that our experience of what's not there changes from moment to moment, and seeing, tracking, tracing, understanding the changes that are going on with us in the way that we misunderstand. My text has a section in each of the 4 schools and then 2 for the highest school about what we give up, the things that we give up by using the path, which are different types of misunderstanding that we progress through. And so our idea of what it is there that's mistaken changes over time, changes throughout my day. I mean, if it changes over the course of our spiritual progression, what we think we've got wrong, if it changes over the course of my day, when I'm mad at somebody, when I'm not mad at somebody, when I'm medium mad at somebody and I'm misunderstanding what I'm misunderstanding of them, does it change over the course of a single meditation? I'm kind of working my way out of dealing with the world in the beginning, and I'm in the zone somewhere in the middle, and my understanding is better, and towards the end I'm getting tired, and so is the Gakja changing? Yeah, I'm changing. What I'm misunderstanding is changing, and that's coming from from seeds. My idea, my wrong idea is changing, and that's coming from seeds. Is a wrong idea an existing thing? Yes. And it's what you use the path to get rid of. Is there an object out there that thing applies to? No, but I have an idea in my head, and that idea changes and gets more subtle, hopefully, if I keep coming to class a lot, and if I keep meditating and going to class, and get off my cushion to go back to class, and leave my class and go back to my cushion, and get deeper and deeper all the time.
I'm going to ask, I'm just stuck on this thing. I have this intense feeling of all the texts connected. They're all connected, like, I don't know, like a big interconnected thing, like a highway system or something. So, Adam, is there anything in your text that would help with Anton's question?
Yeah, specifically, that's kind of what we've been covering this term. You know, and the way I think about it really relates to what Venerable Upala was saying, and that you're kind of switching, and what Ben was saying as well, that you're kind of switching between a deep an analysis and a deep meditation. And I'd like to think that my text provides the fodder that you need in order to analyze whether or not something is, whether or not something which doesn't exist can be changing or not. This is specifically detailed in my text, and it's kind of it's specifically what we've been covering this term so far.
I knew your text was the most important one. I don't know why I thought other people's could be. No, I mean, I like it how you guys are loyal to your text. I think we left Nick. I don't think we technically talked about. Does your text have some ideas for Anton?
It's well, first of all, when I hear his question, first kind of thoughts that came to my mind were along the lines of what Venerable Upala was answering about how the mind switches. You know, you just kind of dig into finding this absence and then try to stay in it. And I think that, hold on, this does relate to my text. Okay. I think that it's something that we're trying to do. And with the lion's dance, I guess we're trying to pretend or kind of force ourselves into this state where we're on an absence, where the mind is focused on an absence. But if we're just, it seems like when it happens, when you really get your mind into an absence, it must be like a good seed opens and then you drop into that and you're experiencing it. And it wouldn't be the same as just deciding that an absence is your meditation object. And so in my text, it came up, and then we touched on it again yesterday, this argument that Gyaltsabje is having with people who believe that there's no mind in the direct perception of emptiness. And I think that some people go there because, well, first of all, the direct perception of emptiness is like the ultimate meditation where your mind is on an absence, as I understand it. It's like, that's the best. And that's what we're trying to get to by practicing all the different practices we do in general. And then the lion's dance is one that kind of points the mind toward that very specifically. And so because it's so weird and so different than how our mind typically functions because of the changing nature of our mind, there's all these different schools, of philosophy on what's happening. And that's where Ben's and Betts's texts really come in. And I think that Adam's text is not only giving you the fodder of what to analyze, but it's also giving you the mental strength and mind training to be able to analyze those things when it comes up. And I think along the same lines, Word's text also giving you that mental training and analyzing these. Like my text, it's kind of like dealing with weird ideas that come up because it's such a different state. So then in my text, you get this argument about whether there's even a mind there that's having a perception. And it seems like a funny question because if there's a perception, of course there's a mind, because that's the definition of perception, is that the mind's perceiving something. And then yesterday we got all into this discussion of whether there's subject and object at all. And it's confusing, and I don't see a clear way to give an answer with intellectual, with it's going to be the answer with intellectual thought, because I guess at the end of the day, it's a yogic direct perception. I'm not trying to get out of it by saying that, I'm saying like, I think that all of this intellectual exercise is just part of what's going to push us into having that direct experience. And all we can do to get us to that direct experience is, one of the main tools we can do is do the mixed nuts stuff and have these philosophical discussions and debate it and analyze it. But what it means to be in the direct perception of an unchanging thing, or in the direct perception of an absence, I wish I could say. I think if Gyaltsab could have said it in the book, he would have just said it directly, but it's more that we have to go back and forth and analyzing, what we think it is and what we don't think it is. And I think that's the whole beauty of Nagarjuna in general, is that he takes us to that through showing us the error of any possible way that we think things do exist.
I have a big question for all you guys, okay? And people ask me this question a lot. It's almost a question about the existence of the mixed nuts, okay? And it's a big question. I even recently I had someone say to me, don't keep talking about reasons and logic and the meaning, and just live from your heart. Live from your heart. You're too much in your head. Live from your heart. And what would you say? Well, I'm curious, and anyone can answer, okay? But if someone said to you, look, I tried to watch your classes, and it just seems like too much argument, too much logic, too much reasons. It just seems like you guys aren't talking about the real essence of what we need in the world right now, which is love, So how would you answer this kind of a question? I mean, Seiji doesn't get to answer because his text is about love. But how about the rest of you guys? How would you answer this question? Because it would be helpful for me,
I would say that how could it be possible to generate a love that would transform entirely every being's heart and experience if you did not understand the lack of a self nature to self? Impossible. So to develop love, we must develop a clear understanding of what that means. I think everyone who came out of 3-year retreat, we all said, it's all about love. And what were we meditating on? Emptiness.
Wow. Anybody else? Anybody else want to take a shot?
Captain Bill McMichael says, logic guides you to the conclusion that you need others. You need to treat others as yourself. That logic will guide you there. And I think that's along the same lines as what Betsy was just saying.
Anybody else want to throw in something?
From, studying 3 years about Abhidhamma from you, Geshe, I was wondering this a lot, because Abhidhamma is all about defining basic things in the world, like and dividing them in different ways: 5 His, 12 doors of sense, 18 categories, what's sound, what's form, like all these basic things. But the more I study Abhidhamma, the more I think there were problems about the world and all the details. And then the more I study Abhidhamma, the more I need to think about emptiness and what does the details of the world have to do with how I treat other people. Like, why do I see 5 hips stained? Because it's a big thing in Abhidhamma to define things as stained and unstained, and how stained things cause all the problems. So for me, it really helps by going deeper and deeper into all kinds of things. And later they all came back to the one stream, which is the marriage of kindness towards other people and emptiness itself. So for me, it really helps, because the more I understand the world in different ways, in details, the more I can love other people.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Anybody else?
I
Any
think
like
Ben, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just unmuted myself. I think I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to raise my hand, but I don't see an option there.
Oh, just speak.
Okay. I think the mind is so like, we can focus on love, but then like, as soon as you see a reason to be selfish, you can make an exception to it. I feel like studying logic and studying in this way, I have Ezra talking about band-aids. It helps us from tricking ourselves to thinking that there's exceptions to focusing on ourselves before others. So by focusing, yeah, there's a band-aid. So by focusing on like studying this logic keeps us from making those exceptions where we think that we can think about ourselves before others in that way.
Cool.
What's up? I gotta focus on him now.
If this was a Kirium class, we would have to conclude that band-aids are important to our discussion. Ben Kramer, you got any ideas you want to say?
I think love without wisdom is vulnerable. Love without we have this tendency to, you know, in our weakness to judge whether or not people are deserving of our love, and whether this person has earned it or whether it's right, and when we understand that people are coming from us, we understand that the love serves ourselves and them at the same time. I think of the opening lines to the Entering the Middle Way. Like Geshe, you taught me that you always remember when you get beat up on the debate ground, and it was the first debate that I ever had with you, which was on the debate ground at Diamond Mountain. And so it's stuck in my head forever. Listeners and self-made Buddhas come from Buddhas. Buddhas come from Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas take their holy birth from the mind that transcends duality, great compassion, and the wish. And so in the beginning, I sing the praises of love, for love and only love is somehow the seed for all the excellent crops of the victors, like the water that makes them grow, like the years of ripening it takes for them to become a thing we can partake of. And he says that this love, the love of a bodhisattva, is safe, is strong, is solid, and don't worry about bodhisattvas. But that person who has a little bit of love just blooming in their heart, they're like a tiny plant, a sprout, a medicinal plant that you have to care for and tend to and take care of, because that's still vulnerable. And then he spends a book teaching you about emptiness, to take care, to build a strong crystalline fence around that little precious sprout of love that needs to be cared for.
Cool. Wow, that's Lexo.
Man, I love
I'm wondering if Xiaoping has any ideas.
Yeah, I'd like to share something about and following Ben. And I think it just occurred to me that Buddha or real bodhisattvas, or you deculturalize real leaders, I think they have the three great qualities. One is the love, compassion, and also is wisdom. The third is the power, the capacity. So if we and I really agree with Ben that in my mind, I think the person who have, sorry, Geshe, you froze. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Let me continue. So I think a person or a real bodhisattva, their love is like very strong, very powerful. It's gentle but powerful, gentle but strong, and they also have the wisdom and capacity to help people. Otherwise, how can we really love and help people? And how can our love really serve people? And in terms of Vinaya, speaking from Vinaya, I think it's all talking about morality, talking about being kind to others. But when we are trying to keep the vows, we are trying to be a bodhisattva, a real warrior in daily life. Sometimes I feel that if I forget about emptiness, if I forget about the two husbands in the kitchen, then it's very difficult for me to be kind to others. And so I think that's one of the reasons why misnuts exist, because we really need to practice our mind by learning all these different tests, learning all this logic, and it can make our compassion really powerful. And also, Geshe, you used to mention that we bring $100 to a $1 store. So there are all kinds of people. Some are very philosophical. Some like Ben, he's so good at debate. Some like logic. Some like logic. And so some like Ayana Gajina. So I think Miss Nuts, I think it'll be great if we can learn all these different philosophy, different tests, and we have all kinds of tools. We have a very comprehensive toolbox. In this way, we can really use our love to serve others. Okay.
Cool. I'm wondering if Adam.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Adam, do you have any thoughts about like this idea? You know, like what would you say to somebody who says, you're the one who's going to get this question the most, I think, you know, all this logic and stuff, you know, how does it help you love people?
Yeah. You know, I think what everybody said was so far has been really, really beautiful. And I think everybody's got extremely valid points that I would only be like accentuating more to talk about. But it's been a big question of mine, in particular for the past few years, because my text specifically deals with something that on the surface seems very dry. And, you know, for me, when I think about the idea of love, I realize that it's inherently focused on other versus self. And in order to love, you've got to, I think there's a separation that has to take place. And it's prevalent in our society that we tend to prop up left brain thinking, I think, through like professions like engineering or highly technical kind of fields, like being a lawyer, doctor. Although these things can have elements of caring for other people, we can get stuck in our head. And one second. And, you know, so my text has specifically led me to a place to understanding that logic actually it's the bridge in between the head and the heart.
Right.
That there is a link to understanding which almost brings about the ability to love. So the deeper you study something like logic, it should only lead you to deeper feelings of love through understanding basically everything else that everything that everybody else has said already. You know, it actually has been I'm trying to hold back saying too much because it's been something I've been thinking about for a few years now. And you know, I just as a, you know, to kind of segue a little bit, I thought it would be an interesting book to write a book called The Logic of Love, and you know. Yeah, so and that's something I've been thinking about for a little while. And it is a really, really deep question, but I you know, I really think that my text in particular, while it can come off like being like reading a math text or or something, it doesn't necessarily do that to me in my heart. It actually makes things it makes things it actually reinforces my heart, the logic. And I've noticed it's only expanded my ability to love other people.
I'm going to ask, I feel like two more people should talk, if you don't mind, Nick. I was going to ask Anton what he thought, and then I was going to ask Seiji, since he's the master, to come after Anton. So Anton, well, you wanted to say something about it, I think.
Yeah, I would personally, if someone would ask me that question, I would just share my personal experience that I'm naturally don't have the tendency to be very kind and loving. And but when I'm in this meditation, which I learned because of all the work which Mixnas is doing, and when I'm going deeper into understanding what emptiness is, and when I'm canceling all the layers of what this is not emptiness, all the gachas, when I'm going deeper into that, I'm coming to this very strong gravity of the person who is canceling this thing. So like there is someone who is doing this, and I feel very much solid about this stuff. And then using logic, I can decompose this and actually understand that something is like cracks in the wings. Yeah. So what I think is going on is not actually going on, and I can only understand it through the logic. And then, but for some reason, I have very deep care about this thing, and I feel very solid about this thing, and I do whatever I have to do to protect this thing. But if I logically understand that something is like not working here, like the thing which I consider myself is not the thing which all my experience, all my feelings tell me, then I can actually logically expand it and think about others in completely different way. And then logically, through all this studying, I'm coming to love in a very strong and solid way. So for me, then it's not just a feeling, but that's actually an understanding which comes through the very detailed analysis, and that would never happen if I would not study what I'm studying with all of your help.
Yay. Seiji, thank you, Anton. Seiji, come on, that's your book.
Yeah, I think one of the things in my book that really, I don't know, like surprised me is when we were talking about the devil and its master, because in this book, traditionally in all books of Buddhism, they say that the root of samsara is misunderstanding, right? And in this book, this teacher said, no, the root of the root of suffering is self-cherishing. And I've been really thinking about that. Why this is the only why is this teacher so adamant about that? And I think the way that I understand it is, yes, the cause, if we look at it from the problem, the cause is misunderstanding. But I think in terms of the solution, the people that I've seen to make the best progress is the ones that have first bodhicitta, and after that, because of that bodhicitta, they study so much, they work tirelessly, and eventually get that higher knowledge, or that, I don't know. Like one of the things that I've, for all the people that I've met that have incredible capacity, when you ask them what's their secret, they say that they always think about bodhicitta, right? About other people. So I think, for example, in my case, that I don't have the wisdom developed to the degree that I would want. It'd be better that I concentrate to have first the good love, and that will automatically make me gain the wisdom at some point, because I care so much, like I would be caring so much. Rather than going, for example, the scientific way that I develop my mind, and then I would reach like a plateau.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think we nailed it.
All right, beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for your beautiful contributions to this discussion. I'm really grateful for everyone who's here, and it's amazing. And so we'll just wrap up because we've reached our time, and there's a lot of questions, and that's cool. And we do something called the Mixed Nuts Reading Club every Thursday. I think we'll pick it up again next Thursday. This week we didn't pick a text, and I like to give just take a few days off because it's been a lot of 5 hour of studying online. And I think it would be nice for everybody to be able to take a walk outside and get some fresh air. And, you know, we spend a lot of time on the computer these days. So we'll start up again with the Mixed Nuts Reading Club next Thursday at 6 p.m. Arizona time. So please tune into that. And I'll drop a link in the chat for where to sign up or where to get information to get the link. And you can make a small donation or a large donation to ACIP to join those talks. But anyway, thank you. And we'll try to address more questions during those reading clubs because we didn't get to all of them. But this was an amazing term. This was an amazing experience. And I just want to say a couple of thank yous as we wrap this up. So first of all, I see Jigme there in the background with the mask on, being safe.
Somebody broke into my house.
I just texted you, Jigme. Thank you. Well, I was going to get to you in a minute, but Geshe Michael, this is only possible because of you. You spent, you know, the last 40, 50 years of your life learning all this stuff so that you could bring it to us in this way. So thank you so much. And we know that you're guided to do this out of your love. That's where I think it intersects too. Like these weird people, the mixed nuts, work so hard at this stuff because of the love. And that's maybe another way of looking at it. We're so courageous, and I know you are, because you have this love for the world and that you're willing to work so hard at this and to teach it to us. So thank you so much, Geshe Michael. The mixed nuts and everything that you've created is possible through your love. So thank you. We've all been fortunate to have electronic means. We've made some donations online and stuff so that just so that we can share our support with you. And we will be sending pizzas intermittently.
If I answer a question correctly, you have to send me a pizza.
Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for bribing us to learn. For some reason, it helps. Just everything. It's amazing. Thank you for creating this program. It's unbelievable. And we, you know, there's not enough I could say to thank you for doing this for us. But it's just, you know, the endless stream of your compassion and wisdom is something we all want to continue to drink from. So please keep teaching us. And please keep sharing these ideas with us.
I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. And you guys are, I said it before, I'll say it again. I tried many years to teach translators and I did not succeed. And I'm very happy now. So it makes me very happy. So let's keep going.
We're going to do our best. I just want to say a couple more thank yous. I want to say thank you to everybody who came. Can I show you for a second? No. Thank you to my beautiful wife and daughter, and all of our beautiful wives and children and families and everybody who helps to do, because there's so many things have to come together to make it possible for us to have this, especially Geshe Michael, and especially thank you to Tim as well, who hosted the webinar and did so much amazing work to archive this, and like all of you who get to see it now and get to see it in the future. It's all thanks to Tim organizing and making sure that this stuff is available to us on the web at the click of a button. Thank you so much, Tim. You make it so easy for us. And you are doing so much to keep this wisdom alive and spread in the world. So thank you. Thank you for mastering the technology that makes this possible. It's a thankless job, and you have to just sit there for endless hours and do it. And we really appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you.
So it's not thankless if we thank you. Thank you so much for working on this with us. Thank you to all the mixed nuts and everybody who participated. So please keep joining us.
And thanks to Nick for hard work as the boss of the mixed nuts. Yay!
Yay!
Thanks to everyone who translated too. Really wonderful.
Oh, and all of our Pure Gold translators, Venerable Jigme and Katie for publishing the books, which is also a hard job. Gina for doing the layout of the books. That's Gina Rivera. You guys are all amazing, and we can do all this thanks to you all. So,
and the 90 Russian-speaking translator who are doing
yeah.
translate.
Wow.
There's an army of Russian translators that
Oh
are
my God.
available to the Russian. So don't mess with them. But please do let the Russians know that Russian-speaking people who don't speak English, they can still sign up, and they can watch all this in Russian.
Yes, please be patient with us. We will be coming back to you to ask questions.
Okay, of course. Thank you, Ina, for organizing all that. That's amazing. Thank you for reminding us. That's
Also, thanks to Jamie for he has all the recordings up online, right?
no, the recordings of these classes aren't available online immediately, but they will be eventually.
Okay. How do we get?
They're gonna be. Sorry. Yeah, give us a few months because people are still they're going to be available on the Tibetan language channel YouTube channel. If you want to watch past Mixed Nuts events, go to the Tibetan language channel YouTube channel. If you want to see our translations in process, go to the website diamondcutterclassics.com, and Ben and I will update all those translations very soon to make sure that you have access. You can't download them there. You can look at them, you can read them, and you can comment upon them. That's diamondcutterclassics.com. Thank you, Geshe Michael, for putting that in the chat. And it's an amazing thing to be able to see our translations in progress, because you can work with us on them. You can criticize us. You can question us. What are you talking about? I don't understand this at all. And we'll just write back and say, that's not my fault. You don't understand it. So at the end of the day, we're trying to make these translations accessible, relevant to everybody in the whole world. And we want to create a vast library of resources for people who want to use this intellectual pursuit and understanding to grow their love deeper. Thank you so much, Geshe Michael.
Cool. Okay, see you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you. There is nothing in the world like this now, and it is such a great time that we get to share it. It is the medicine we need. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah. Take a good rest. Take a good rest, Mixed Nuts.
Oops.
Ashley, you don't need to send me the texts, okay?
I'll send them to you. I'm on it.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys take a rest for one day, and then we'll go back to work.
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
We have yoga in 4 minutes. So if anyone is interested in taking a rest, we'll be doing a yoga nidra plus a gentle practice. So we'll give it 10 minutes. We'll get started in that class in about 10 minutes. And I'm just self-promoting. I'm leading that class.
Tim. Oh yeah, Tim's teaching yoga.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. All right, well, stay tuned. We'll do this again in September, and please come to the Mixed Nuts Reading Club. I just posted a link. It's on the AsianClassics.org website.
What are the dates for September, Nick?
I'll confirm, but hold on. I'm gonna have to confirm that because it's looking like toward the end of September, like the 11th to the 25th. But I just want to verify a couple things with Geshe Michael. There's a few factors that might be at play. So I'll email everybody now. I've got everyone's email addresses.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Love you guys.